This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Peter Bonney. He is the founder and CEO of Fastbreak RFP. Peter, hello. How are you, buddy?
Doing great, Jay. How are you?
I'm good. Just saying how nice it is. I feel bad for my great grandchildren that they won't have a winter, but I'm enjoying this nice 70s day in the fall. So
it's beautiful here. I was outside without a jacket earlier. It was amazing.
That's great. I love it. All right. Well, where did you grow up, and did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur later in life?
It's funny. I was just talking with somebody about this. So where I grew up, not so much. I grew up in Massachusetts. I grew up in a small town called Somerset. At the time, pretty blue collar place. Main business in town was a coal-fired power plant. Now, I guess it's sort of a suburb of Boston. But yeah, it definitely had an impact on my future life as an entrepreneur. My parents both went to trade schools. Neither one of them went to a four-year college. And my dad especially was very much, what we today call a hustler. He worked in retail most of his career, but always had side businesses. He, I guess, what we now popularly call a side hustle for us growing up was, just a weekend. Like always, I guess my dad was a picker slash flipper. He would kind of do the circuits of like local auctions and flea markets and find the stuff that he just kind of kept this mental, map of, values for, and like buy it cheap and then, sell it at his own flea market table a couple weekends later for more, and just, always just generating extra cash that way. So yeah.
Love that.
Gotta always have the spirit.
I love that a lot. Have you seen any of those characteristics kind of in yourself as you've gotten older?
Yeah, especially the older I've gotten, the more I've come to appreciate I have in common with my dad. Like growing up, it wasn't so obvious to me. I much more took after my mother. And, my dad was a great salesperson. I was never a good salesperson. My dad is the life of the party. Like he literally will never stop talking. Like if there's a silence, like the words will just come out of his mouth. And I'm the complete opposite. Like I'm quiet, you got to ask me questions to get me talking. And I always thought like, oh, we're totally different. But I spent a lot of time working with my dad growing up. So he was in the shoe business. He ran shoe stores. I went to his shoe store a lot. This was, we didn't have daycare or babysitting available. Like sometimes if they needed childcare, like I just went to the store,
Right.
And I was just in the back room and I would help him with stuff. And a lot of the way he approached the job really rubbed off on me. He was very good at it. He was a very good retail manager. He was a great salesperson. And like he always had this insane customer focus. And he had these quotes up in his back room, like one of which I've never forgotten. And I later looked up who it's attributed to. I think might have been the founder of Studebaker. It said, the customer is not an interruption to your job. The customer is your job. And, I think especially for people in retail, like it can feel like, oh God, these people are annoying, but like, that's why you're there. Right. And, it's the same. Yeah. It's that kind of like, look, the customer's always right. They're who's paying us. They're why we're in business. Nowadays it's swanky to call it customer obsession. I got it from my dad.
I love it. So you started a couple companies, I think. What was the first one you founded?
Yeah. So Vendorful, a procurement software solution. And I knew nothing about procurement going into that. I had some exposure to RFPs in my prior life and thought like, oh, hey, like buying stuff is a challenge for big companies. My co-founder and I said, oh, we can make this better. And we did. But like, man, we learned a lot of hard stuff along the way. It would have been useful to know before we started the company in procurement.
What were some of those things?
What were some of the things that we learned?
Yeah. Like what were the big things that you wish you'd maybe sketched out first?
Yeah. Well, so I don't think we appreciated the degree to which procurement is undervalued by big companies. It's like it's a cost center, and we knew that going in. Okay, fine, it's a cost center, but our assumption was if you can save a dollar, like if your procurement team can save a dollar, that dollar falls straight to your bottom line, right? That's pure profit. So
Mm-hmm.
that ought to be valued as much as or more than a dollar of sales. Because if you sell a dollar worth of stuff, you've got a margin on that,
Right.
like not actually getting a dollar of profit. So, our thinking was like, hey, anything that like falls straight down to the bottom line, companies will be willing to invest in, like it obvious ROI. And so like we went out with this strategy of going to market by saying, let's do like an RFP, let's do a reverse auction, get hard dollar savings, right? On a first event, you run for free. And that money will, that savings will then more than pay for a contract, and you will have validated that this is going to save you money down the line. Save enough, then walk away. Don't get into a contract. No big deal. The very first time we got somebody to take us up on that, they ran a reverse auction. They saved, I want to say, $150,000 off their existing contract for something, and like we were proposing them like a $20,000 a year contract. It's like, hey, no brainer, right? Like bring it to the CFO. Let's sign.
Right.
And they're like, after the auction, they're like, hey, that was great. Thank you so much. We saved a lot of money. Unfortunately, that money doesn't fall to my budget. So, CFO still said no.
Right. Yep.
Are you kidding me? So, yeah.
I love that. All right. So tell me about Fastbreak. You did Vendorful. Did you guys exit there, or did that shut down? How did that work?
Oh yeah, so we sold it. It became self-sustaining, grew it to a point of being profitable. Did not grow to the scale of business that we wanted it to be. Like
Mm-hmm.
we thought like, hey, we're sitting on something like Coupa, like that this could be a multi-billion-dollar business, and it didn't grow to that. I'm proud of what it grew to. It grew to was 7 figures, and that's cool. But that was not going to be the thing that changed my life or my co-founder's life.
Mm-hmm.
So we exited that, and actually the order of operations was slightly different. Along the way, one of the lessons of selling to procurement was that not only were we helping them run RFPs, we had to sell through RFPs all day.
Right.
We were always facing competitive bids, and they were super annoying, and especially because like they weren't using software. Like we were selling
Right.
software to make it better. They were using Excel sheets and these horrible things. Anyway, it was so frustrating. To solve our internal problem of having to respond to RFPs in order to grow the procurement business, we started developing a model to help us complete RFPs based on RFPs we'd done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And around kind of like spring of 2023, we're like, actually, this is pretty cool. This should be, could maybe be its own product. And so we put it out to market under the Vendorful brand, started getting traction on it. And we're like, actually, this is really cool. This is where we should focus. And so then that's when we kind of cleaved it off and started selling the old business and said, like, this is fine, but the old business is not, is not our dream. Let's get what we can for it, find a nice home for it. Other people will continue to get value from it, but like we want to focus on the new thing. And so we separated that. We rebranded it as Fastbreak because no longer have the Vendorful name. And yeah, now that's our new business. That's where we're focused.
How many of the team did you bring over with you?
5 people. So it was like back to early stage startup mode. Like we're very early stages. We have our kind of initial customers, but it's like, we gave up like, 90% of the revenue we off the old business. And so, it's back to the days of experimentation and like, me as founder being in every deal, handling support tickets, which actually it's a lot of fun. I've really kind of missed that work.
What would you say product market fit wise you guys are doing differently this time than last time?
Well, so look, the big thing is it's a totally different ballgame selling to revenue teams versus selling to procurement teams. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mean this as a dig against procurement. I have a ton of respect for people in procurement. They really face a lot of challenges, including like a misunderstanding of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But having said all that, it is a hell of a lot easier making a sale when the person who's buying has a revenue story. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
Like businesses are just predisposed to prefer a dollar of sales over a dollar of savings. And so like in terms of like, product market fit, like I don't think we're there yet. I think we're probably pretty far from it. That's a whole other separate discussion whether anyone ever has product market fit. But like certainly the problem solution fit, like the precursor, happen much faster and is much more obvious. You talk to people in sales. Anybody who's in B2B sales is responding to RFPs. Like they've got the pain, they get the problem, they see their own inefficiency, they see the gains they can get from it. It's just a much smoother, easier conversation.
How do you calculate total addressable market for the product?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Right now, I'm in the process of niching down because it's the real total addressable market is stupid big and is not actually that helpful. Because it's like, look, what's the total addressable market of an RFP product? Everybody in the world who responds to RFPs, right? Which is every B2B company over a certain size, or selling to companies over a certain size. And that is not helpful for targeting. So we are niching down to the industries where we've seen the most initial traction. And the one that seems the most promising is health insurance, which is interesting. They have like huge pain points with RFPs. And so, look, the way I'm thinking about it, to get to your question, is I'm not really thinking about what the total addressable market actually is for this product. I'm thinking about what is the total addressable market of our current go-to-market strategy. Like something what's going to keep us busy for the next 2 years.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then think about TAM expansion and then further TAM expansion. So like I'm actually, in a weird way, I'm actually trying to shrink the TAM at the moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think that exact problem exists for most B2B agencies, right? It's like, well, of course it could be everyone could use this service, but here's the hungry. It should be like an HTAM, right? It should be like hungry total addressable market. Like what is the most on fire pain point group and what's the size of them? Because that's the real number, right? That's the only one you really care about.
Yeah, that's actually great. I love that. The hungry TAM. That's good.
It sounds like a kid's book. We could teach kids business by the Hungry Tam. I think I might have to go do that. Very cool. All right. So you've been doing this new business for what, a year and a half now, almost 2 years. Is that about right? Yeah.
Yeah, year and a half, yeah.
Is there anything you would have done differently at the start? Like right when you guys spun it off, looking back 2 years, or something you said, I wish we would have done it slightly differently here?
Yeah. I wish we had actually, look, as early as we were able to get some validation by, talking to people in sales and talking to people who we thought were in our addressable market. I wish I had done so even earlier. And I wish I had been a little bit more expansive about who I talked to. So like, give some specific examples. So when we started out with this product, like our initial hypothesis about who we were going to sell to was people like us, right? Like relatively, small to mid-sized software companies that were doing B2B and didn't have a lot of resources to respond to RFPs. And that targeting suggests kind of a certain contract size, right? Like they're not going to pay $100,000 a year. They're probably going to pay, somewhere between, $5,000 and $15,000, depending on the size. And so those were the kinds of people we talked to. Like we talked to people like ourselves. And we had our own, experience. So we're like, okay, this is, all kind of validating. And that was all fine. But because we didn't expand, we weren't thinking expansively enough about what it could be and who the market could be. I didn't go out and talk to these companies that are doing like multi-billion-dollar RFPs in other industries, right? I never talked to a health insurer. I never talked to somebody in defense, right? And had I done so earlier, we probably would have made some different product choices out of the gate, which we eventually got to, and sort of eventually realized like, oh, like, the easier path to market here is not this kind of like small transactional sale. In a weird way, it's actually investing more time in doing a single deal that's like, it's like Like the basic math is what we found is it takes us about twice as long to do a deal that's like 5 to 10 times the size.
Hmm.
And that is just a better go to market. Like the basic math is obvious. And I could have learned that probably, 6 to 9 months earlier had we done more interviews of people.
Hmm. Yeah, and I hear that a lot. And I think, and as a business owner myself, market research is like
Mhm.
probably just one of the worst terms. I mean, it's just not the term itself, but just the stigma around it, the
Mhm.
actuality of it. It does suck to put together like and figure out how much is enough and how long do we do this and how wide do you go. And then almost every single time the answer is not enough, right? Like I hear that
Yeah.
time and time again. And it's getting in front of your customers is or potential customers and getting that feedback early. I don't think could be overstated. So I really like that.
Yeah. And I'll say another thing, like, people always talk about going out to your network. That's fine. Like that was really helpful to us to go out to our network to talk to people. What I wish I'd done more of was going outside our network.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Like,
And so how would you suggest somebody kind of in your same shoes go past the network? Like, where would you go? Well, who would you talk to? Like, at that point, you're like back into uncharted territory as a
yeah.
market researcher. You're like, I don't even know. Do I put a survey together? Do I like go to a conference? Do I join a group? Like, what do I do to get out of my network?
Yeah. Well, so, all right, this is going to sound weird. One of the first steps I think now is actually a conversation with ChatGPT. I had an interesting chat with ChatGPT a few months ago where like I don't usually use it this way. I usually use it for like very tangible, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I've got this document, like, restructure it or whatever, like,
Right.
or help me write a blog post. But I said, you know what? Everyone talks about brainstorming with it. It's a great brainstorming tool. I'm going to try it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
brainstormed on possible markets that we could expand into. And it was really interesting because I very surprisingly came up with stuff that like I don't think is, earth shattering, but just like it reminded me of like things that were related, like different industries, like, oh, well, hey, like if you're having success in software because they have these characteristics, have you considered this niche of manufacturing? Because they
Mm-hmm.
also have customers that look like that and have, similar questionnaires. And so, had I been starting out at the time, had I done this like 9 months earlier, 10 months earlier, or whatever, I would have then taken that information and then gone straight to LinkedIn. So
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is the incredible tool for connecting you with anybody, right? Like I do this for sales all the time. This is now our main go to market channel is reaching out to people through LinkedIn, but it works just as well, I'm sure, for market research. And I would have, used that to identify people in my that I sort of discovered as being in my target market through ChatGPT, and just literally told them, "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm thinking about starting this business. Would you be willing to talk to me for 15, 20 minutes about
Mm-hmm.
a specific thing?" Because people want to talk about their problems. They really
Yes.
do. And so I think, a combination of ChatGPT for brainstorming, LinkedIn for connecting with people, and I would be shocked if you didn't get like a, somewhere between like a 1 in 5 and 1 in 4, acceptance rate for those meetings.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, and I use it for brainstorming too. I think it's a underutilized. I mean, it has all the information in the universe, right? So it's
Yeah.
you can like who better to bounce ideas off of. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, I have one final question, non-business related. This is just
Okay.
Peter as a guy.
Okay.
If you could do anything on earth and you knew you wouldn't fail,
Mhm.
what would it be?
If I could do anything on earth and I knew where I wouldn't fail, what would it be? Geez. That's a good one. I knew I wouldn't fail. I would go to the bottom of the ocean. Like if I knew that I was not going to get crushed like that, I mean, the poor, horrible
Yeah,
accident.
yeah.
Um, I, I am fascinated by that. I would love to do that. I am way too risk averse to ever actually get in a submersible and go, that far into the ocean. But I would love to do that. That
That's a
would be
great answer. I've actually never got that. We get space all the time, obviously, and like I would go to the Mars and all that, but we've never heard bottom of the ocean. And I agree, that would be very cool. I think it's like the last uncharted territory on Earth. It's very cool. I love that.
the majority of life on Earth lives out of our sight. It's
I'm not
incredible.
sure I want to see some of it. Some of it's pretty terrifying, but if there was no risk of failure, I
Yeah.
would definitely do that. All right. Well, Pete, you're great. Where can people find you if they want to reach out about something they heard today, and how can they find Fastbreak RFP?
Sure. .com is our website, and I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn. Peter Bonney. There's a couple of us in the world, but not that many.
All right. Well, we'll match you up. We'll link you up after this. All right, Pete. It was great having you on, brother.
Likewise,
Keep up
Jay.
the great work, and we'll keep up with your journey. And wish you the best of luck. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pete. See you.